Vaya, it's set to fly the flag very high when it screened at the prestigious 67th Berlin International Film Festival in Germany. The film, which tells the story of people who have been homeless, received incredible response at the Toronto Film Festival last year and is hoping to have a similar success in Berlin. Now, to talk to us about the screening and the success of the film is one of the writers and producer, Robbie Thorpe. Robbie, thank you very much for joining me on Morning Live.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, the reaction, are you guys as amazed as everybody else at the success of Vaya?
Yeah, I mean, I think you always never know when you make a film how it's going to be received. You just don't have any idea. I mean, obviously you hope for the best. But yeah, it's always a pleasant surprise when other people like your film, I think. Yeah.
And what do you think it was about this film? Was it the way the story was told? Was the characters completely relatable that made it such a success?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you're always trying to tell a story in a new way, in a fresh way. And I think, the film took 8 years to make, so we spent a lot of time, and a lot of that was about writing because it was workshopped with people who had experienced homelessness. So that was an important part, is that the film is very authentic. When you really feel like you're experiencing a world that perhaps a lot of people aren't familiar with, and it's based on real people's stories. And I think that all helps. I think sometimes people look for an experience that's authentic, that's got a realness to it.
It's quite interesting that you talk about the 8 years and workshopping with so many different people. I think we're living in a world at the moment where a lot of stuff is superficial.
Yeah.
And, and guys are trying to get productions out. What was it at the beginning that you guys decided we needed to really tell that story? We needed to sit down and discuss the implications of telling the story, and we need to find people that actually reflect that story.
Well, some guys actually approached me. Originally, they wanted to, these are guys that were working for Homeless Talk, the homeless newspaper.
Yeah, the newspaper.
So they wanted to, expand their skills, and they wanted to be able to start doing something else. So they approached me, and I had, I was very dubious at the beginning that we would ever get anything that we'd be able to use. But over a very long period of time, it sort of started to happen and shaped itself into a story. And I think, as you say, I mean, people that are at the bottom of society, stories are very often ignored. They're the people that stories never get told because they don't think that their own lives have value. So it is fascinating when you realize that everybody has a story to tell, and their stories are really, really dramatic. I mean, the stuff that's happened to these guys in their lives is really fascinating and amazing. And so we were able to get that stuff out of them and shape it into a story, a coherent story.
Stuff that shocked you? Stuff that you didn't know?
Yeah, for me, very deeply shocking. I mean, they said people make us invisible, people blank us out.
But it is, let's be honest, it is very easy to do as we drive in our cars every day.
Of course, it's part of almost what you have to do. But they said, tell our stories and make us visible. Let people see us. Let them see that we're human beings. And that was one of the main points of the film. So,
with that being said, I mean, if there's so many stories, how did you decide on what the stories that you wanted to focus and kind of tell?
Well, that's part of the reason why we took a long time, because it's not, and everybody's stories were unconnected to each other. So the device of the film is that we had to find a way to connect the stories. So the stories are three people coming to Joburg, and we follow the three stories, and that the people never meet each other, but their stories interconnect with each other and become sort of one story.
And in its own, that must be very complex to kind of have the stories relate, because what you don't want is the audience to watch it and feel disconnected.
No, exactly, and that's the key. And the point about a good story is emotional resonance. So you have to resonate emotionally with the characters. You have to root for them. You have to want them to succeed. You have to feel their triumphs and their failures. And I think if you're doing a difficult story, I think a very key thing is humor. And these guys humor is such a key part of their lives, and I think that's how people also cope. So in a film that has darkness, it's also important to have light and to show that everybody experiences a range of emotions.
It's often easy to look at this story and go, it's a South African problem. But the fact that it's resonated so well with an international audience, what does it say about the content of the story?
No, I don't think, listen, poverty is not a South African problem. Poverty is a worldwide problem. I mean, countries like America have enormous levels of poverty. People don't maybe realize that. But poverty is a big problem in the world, and it's becoming a greater problem.
And that's why this resonated so well with an international audience.
Yeah, I think so. I think it resonates well because it feels authentic and it feels like a story worth telling. So people will respond to that.
So you've been invited to the Berlin International Film Festival in Germany. How did that come about?
So what happens is with film festivals, there's probably 4 or 5 very prestigious ones. There's a lot of film festivals, but there's 4 or 5 that are like the top ones. And you submit your film and then they choose you. So this is the second very big festival we've been chosen to attend. And so, yeah, they obviously feel the film is something that they'd like to showcase, which is great for us.
Now, it's going to be screened later this year in South Africa, but, you know, there's a thing about having a film that's critically acclaimed, and then there's another thing to have a film sold out. In Toronto, you had 3 screenings and they were all sold out.
4 screenings, yeah.
4 screenings and they're all
and those
sold
are big
out.
cinemas. You're talking about 700-seat cinemas, yeah. No, that's great. And, you know, we hope that that all the buzz that we create in the world, the most important audience for us is South Africans. It's not the international audience. We want South Africans to see the film. And so hopefully later on, you know, there's many, many myths that people say if you do an indigenous language film, you won't get audiences. Yeah. You know, we, with my partner, Akina Matoso, we did Tell Me Sweet Something. At that time we were trying to make that film, people were saying black people don't go to the cinema, period. And
you proved them wrong.
And we proved them wrong, and after that, Happiness is the 4-letter words, really smashed box office. Yeah. So we're always trying to push the boundaries and say there's a lot of myths out there that are based not on fact, and actually we don't believe that any of that stuff is true.
As Trump calls it, fake news.
Yeah, so we hope that when the film is released later, that it will resonate with people here and they'll go and see it. I mean, I'm very confident that's true.
You don't have a release date yet for the South African audience?
We're looking at around October, but it's still being negotiated. But yeah, in that last part of the year, definitely.
So after Berlin, 9th to the 19th, any plans to take it anywhere else internationally?
Yeah, we've been accepted to another big international film festival. Unfortunately, I'm not allowed to announce it yet because they have to announce it first. Okay. But there's another big one that we're going to. There are a few other little ones, but there's another one big one. So yeah, we're really riding this wave of these film festivals.
Well, that's amazing. Okay, so the film is called Vaya. It is on its way to the Berlin Film Festival. It's one of the largest independent festivals in Europe, and it runs from the 9th to the 19th of February. Then it's expected later this year, probably around October, but we'll have to watch the press for details to find out when that movie is released. And you know, when it comes out, let's all go. Let's all go check it out. Okay, we take it out break. Then get away.
Singakhuluma ngalokhu nalokuya ngoba siqhe ekhaya. Singakhuluma ukuthi indoda iyagwazwa lapha. Igwazele nje 5 rand kuphela. Singakhuluma ukuthi le ekhaya ungaba isigwili kodwa lapha awulutho isifokolo.